Hey everyone, what the fuck has been going on this year? 2024 has been by far the most eventful year for mainstream music this decade. On one hand, you have most of the biggest current artists releasing projects: Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, Beyonce, Ariana Grande, Kanye West, Eminem. We've had these huge rap beefs, including one that may have finally ended Drake's career, which many over-obsessed chart nerds like myself would never have imagined happen in their lifetimes. We've had the most political Eurovision competition ever the previous week to the one I ranked. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world of mainstream music, but on top of that, 2024 was designed to prove every general point I've made about mainstream music over the past couple of years obsolete. I've been going on and on about how different the US and UK charts have become this decade. This entire top 20 has charted on Billboard. In fact, this top 10 has all been in the US top 30 at some point over the past couple months. Heck, even the one entirely Spanish reggaeton song that the US usually gets is somehow here. It's not even that big in the States, but it looks like the monoculture of the mid-2010s has come back, if even that can chart here. I've also been going on and on about how the charts have been very weak going into the decade when it comes to chart sales, and yet the top 10 is the strongest I've seen in almost a decade. Like, I was kind of impressed when Paint the Town Red got 50,000 sales, which felt like quite a strong figure for a number one at the time. This week, the entire top 6, yes, 6 have outsold that. So many of the general points I've made about music have been made redundant. Also, the music itself feels considerably different. I love 2023's chart music a lot, in part because a lot of the trends really appeal to me specifically, and whilst the charts this year aren't terrible, the most notable thing is that a lot of the trends I liked just haven't crossed over into this year. Amapiano hasn't had any real success outside of Tyler, the trance music resurgence has seemed pretty short-lived. So what trends did we get instead?
This ain't Texas, ain't no hold'em.
Well, a big reason as to why the charts have been so American this year is because that country music boom from last year wasn't a fluke. Instead, country music has dominated the UK charts in a way that I've never seen this century. And interestingly, the songs are mostly not from established national country artists that dominate the US charts, but are by either pop artists trying it out or newbies who may never have another hit again. The other trend, which I find to be significantly more annoying, is Noah Kahan.
But it's the season of the sticks, and I
correctly predicted that Noah Kahan's Stick season would be a strong first year number one. However, what I didn't consider was how the success of Noah Kahan and the album would ultimately change the mainstream music landscape. And hey, I like Noah Kahan. Stick Season is a good album, but the problem isn't just that Noah Kahan's biggest song is one of his worst, but that his sound isn't one that needed to have a big revival anyways, and now we have to put up with commercial pulled garbage like this.
she's wearing an old dress, walking it out, waiting for someone to turn her around.
Scared to Start marks the first and most successful of the indie pop singles from 2024, and it just so happens to be one of the worst. Kind of surprising it's this fella in particular who has the most successful song in this vein, because he has the smallest following from the current crop. But I do recognize that kind of homely mediocrity and anonymity is part of the song and aesthetic's charm. Most people who have heard this guy never watched the music video, but it is very revealing in showing what this song and guy are about. The shots are of a pretty unimpressive looking part of a rundown area of what I think is London. Michael Marcheghi is dressed in very average looking and boring casual attire. If you were to show me a picture of him without telling me it was him, I wouldn't have a clue. The theme of the video is basically he's able to gather an audience in a different country to his own, despite living a no-frills regular lifestyle. I've spent all of 2024 so far living with people with this exact dream. Guitar playing musicians who brighten up their average lives with the love of performing music, with the goal of getting a decent audience and to financially support themselves off the hobby. Not really a desire to be famous, but a desire to get by on the thing they love the most. And they also live in a somewhat rundown area of a big city. I absolutely see the charm in this lifestyle, yet I know my friends and frankly most people can make a better song than this. And that's what really annoys me, because like, what did the listening public see in this to make it go to the top 10? Like, if this stylized image of ordinary cloutless pop rock is true and the guy really is just an ordinary musician that lucked himself into a hit, then great for him, that's great. But I'm sorry, the song just sucks.
Are you scared to find it?
It's really bad. It's all about taking risks in life and escaping mediocrity, yet it sounds like the least exciting and most boring version of itself. If it was attempting to soundtrack a commercial, then it succeeded, but it fails in every other regard. Whether the girl described in the song is really a girl or an anthropomorphized image of escapism, it really doesn't matter, because his snotty, Khan-esque squealing and the thin, limp feather of an instrumental makes listening to this kind of feel like a 9 to 5. Every instrument sounds like it's had its punches pulled, every note played has the colour drained from it, and all you can focus on is his reverb-abused wails. It's not a great big ode to the excitement of life or even a good sing-along. It's an image of escapism distorted to the nth degree. I see no reason to return to this song, nor do I have any real understanding as to why it stayed in the top 20 for a full 3 months.
Take my heart, don't break it. Love me to my bone.
Ugh, Miles Smith. Michael Markakis has the worst song, but Miles Smith is the worst artist to come from the current indie pop virus. He charted solo before this, which to my knowledge is the song that got him signed. It is absolutely terrible, one of the worst charting songs of the year. Miles has even less of an apparent appeal than Michael. He's a much worse writer, his lyrics are fucking grade 1 garbage, he's a worse singer, his baritone is dehydrated and dead, and I don't like any of these indie pop songs in general, but I will give them that the rustic, amateurish sound gives them some level of like homeliness. I've only heard 2 of Smith's songs because he's not good enough or interestingly bad to warrant more listens, but both are extremely overpolished and slick to the point you think there was some sort of big country EDM crossover, but instead of a drop,
Is it too late for us? Oh, why'd you get me so high to leave me so low?
it completely flatlines into some flaccid, dry, and despondent folkish garbage. It all sounds so soulless, and I'm definitely missing something when it comes to his audience, which is bigger than you'd probably expect.
I lose my mind.
Now, thankfully, Stargazing is a better song than Solo, because it's got a better chorus melody, and the actual production itself is fine. It has some energy to it, but otherwise it's pretty terrible. I want to hammer in how insipid and uninspired Miles is as a lyricist. Singer-songwriter cuts are largely about the writing, the songwriting. Smith doesn't have an interesting or creative thought in his brain. Even Scared to Start had decent imagery. Stargazing sounds like he inputted Write a Love Song About Falling in Love called Stargazing into ChatGPT about a year ago. It hits all the cliches and points you would expect for a song about falling for someone you'd known for a while. And also, once again, I don't like his singing either. His tenor is quite weak and there's a lack of character to his vocal tone. He sounds like he desperately needs a drink of water. People have compared this song to Coldplay meeting Avicii, and I would say that sounds worse than people probably think, but then I remember A Sky Full of Stars was quite good, and then I get annoyed that this is the straight to X Factor version of that song. It's too stuck in its singer-songwriter ways to be good EDM, and it's too badly written to be a good singer-songwriter cut. The comparison that comes to my mind isn't Coldplay and Avicii, but it's more Kane Brown doing one of his country EDM crossovers. And feel free to say what you want about the country crossover Brown has on the charts right now with Marshmello, Miles on it. It is very corny, and I don't think anyone wanted a 2020s Hey Porsche, but that song is instantly more fun, better produced, and better sung than either song Miles Smith has charted.
I'm a real tough kid, I can handle my shit. They said, babe, you gotta fake it till you make it.
So I've been sitting on making this video for quite a bit of time. It took me a solid 6 weeks to finish the script. I've listened to all these songs over and over again. This is the song that shrunk on me the most. In fact, I initially had this in the top 5, so why did it fall down so far? I mean, this is one of the songs on the Tortured Poets department that doesn't sound like synth sludge. That's got to count for something, right? And I thought that too at first. But good lord, does that preppy synth get really annoying on repeated listens.
I can do it with a broken heart.
And after that, I noticed all the other shit that really turned me off. Like, what the fuck are those swishing tidal wave, white noise sound effects that are just randomly in the song?
I'm so obsessed with him, but he avoids me.
And even before all this, I was pissed off by the baffling decision to have each music section connected by some man counting to 4, but out of time. I mean, it's good to see you guys have finally realized how bad Jack Antonoff is. It took you fucking long enough. I mean, conceptually, I like the idea. Great to hear a song where Taylor brings her work ethic to the forefront. She has absolutely worked her ass off, and it's good to spell it out to everyone that all the heartbreak and stuff, whilst keeping a straight face on tour, is an impressive thing to manage and actually very hard. Most people would struggle. It's just that the angles he took, focuses on us just not understanding that she's having a hard time. We all think she's loving every second of this.
Is that miserable?
You're shitting us, right? Like, the biggest song on your last album was how sad it was to be Taylor Swift. So why the fuck is she acting like nobody noticed this? The only enjoyment I get out of this song now is the aptly cheesy vocal line. Otherwise, this was a good idea that came out considerably worse than it should have.
You and me.
Shawn Mendes doing a cover of Summer Paradise by Simple Plan back in 2014.
Think about me every night, oh.
Your preteen sister singing her own lyrics to the beat of Say So for a talent show.
So slow it down. Take a moment now.
Okay, fine. I do actually have a couple more things to say about Espresso. I'm pretty positive that in such a volatile and fascinating top 10, people are going to look back at this moment in popular music and be surprised this was number one, whilst all the crazy shit had been going on underneath. Espresso is the least notable song in this top 15. I wanted to give Sabrina a pass at first because yes, her charting impact before last year was that terrible Skin song, but that was a while ago. She stopped annoying me because she made that, and now she annoys me by making woefully uncreative music. Her MO is to basically rip off a different artist's sound whilst adding a little bit of her own cheeky charm to it. Or at least it was until Please Please Please, but I'll have to say my thoughts on that for another video. It worked best for me on her first true chart hit in the UK, Nonsense, an unabashed rip-off of Positions era Ariana Grande, but it was cute and flirty enough that it did actually work for me. It actually sold the idea of having a fun night with Sabrina Carpenter better than 34 plus 35 did. And I guess it does help that Sabrina Carpenter looks like she was cut from the acting crew of the Barbie movie for being too photogenically beautiful. Feather, on the other hand, has to be the single most generic song of the 2020s thus far. A disco synth pop style throwback with lyrics about blowing off an ex. It could only be more 2020s if its chorus vaguely interpolated Tom's Diner or something. I don't know why this gets off the hook as opposed to Miley Cyrus's Flowers. At least that song had a personality to it. Espresso basically merges the two, and I guess mixing a 6 out of 10 with a 2 out of 10 should come out to a 4. And maybe it does. Espresso doesn't sound bad, even if it is a blatant rip-off of Say So with a compressed, crunchy disco beat, complete with plastic pink guitars, funky bass line and crunchy drums, whilst Carpenter rocks a nasal, weedy, high-pitched vocal. That sound and lack of distinctiveness and lack of ambition puts it akin to a better sounding Feather. I do like the keyboard, sure, but it's also very hard to care about the song because it shoots so solidly for the middle. The greatest problem I have is the part it borrows from Nonsense, which are not the good parts. I mean, both songs are about hitting on a guy, but Nonsense hit a sweet spot where the instrumental was sparse enough, the vocals were characterful enough, and the ditzy flirting was just funny enough to work. But I don't hear any of that in Espresso's boring, cold commerciality. The compressed instrumental and Sabrina's pretty irritating imitation of Doja Cat's breathy upper register, inflections, and octave multi-tracking is the complete opposite of intimacy. It's hardly about what it's about. The most annoying thing that it borrows from Nonsense that it does much worse this time is, I guess how, like, meta it is. Nonsense had a couple cheeky references to how it knew how silly the premise was and it kind of worked. Here though, the meta joke is that some of the lyrics are written as if to have quotation marks. The problem is that she doesn't sing it like that, so it leads to like a bunch of awful sounding lyrics like these.
I give a fuck. Are on vacation. Walked in and dream came true for you. One touch and I'm brand new for you. Was that me? Espresso. I know I'm nothing to it for you.
I mean, that Mountain Dude line is going to be one of the worst things I heard this year.
One touch and I'm brand new for you.
yeah, get it? Yeah, get it. It's stupid. Yeah, she's in on it too. No. And look, I'm not the first one to point this out, and I actually had to research this to make sure whether I was right or not, but you know, espressos generally aren't sweet. Like, I guess she needed a drink to represent staying up all night, but she didn't go for latte, cappuccino, or even sugared Americano. But she chose a drink that's very bitter. Oh, how poetic. The girl who made Skin to unironically compare herself to something bitter when trying to be sweet.
Think about me every night, oh.
Yeah, I get why it's big, but I'm pretty much done with this shit. Bad song. Moving on.
Let me hold you now. Let me slow it down.
I don't think we could have guessed that 2024 would be such a big year for Benson Boone, a guy who had intermittent success beforehand. I spoke about one of his songs in the 2022 ranking, but exploded to a new level of popularity with Beautiful Things at the start of 2024, and then maintained success by releasing his debut record shortly after. Now, I never liked or cared about Benson Boone at all. Based on his charting music, he was just another boring, screechy and loud white boy with nothing to make of himself before this year. But I was pleasantly surprised by Beautiful Things, and honestly, That album is pretty okay. Not the best thing you'll hear this year, but he actually seemed inspired to make something he clearly thought was good. It's shockingly musical and well produced. I like his music more than most white blokes scoring hits at the moment. People understandably don't agree. It's not a record that everyone's gonna like. They also compare him to Lewis Capaldi, a screechy singer-songwriter who's mic'd way too loud. I get it, but for the most part, I don't really agree. At least Boone's instrumentals are good and have backing to them, and I do actually think he's got a better voice, but I can't defend this one. I mean, it's a better written song than anything Capaldi's done. Actually, it's better written than most songs in the top 20, weirdly. It's a surprisingly detailed song about Boone trying to maintain a strenuous relationship with a very Christian woman, of whom Benson is her first lover. They both seem to be having a full-on existential crisis about the whole ordeal, overthinking massively, but, I kind of like it. It's well detailed, but the problem is the singing is absolutely horrendous.
Only girl that's never let me is my mother. I love her, and I know you probably hate it.
This is 15 on the ranking, but it may just be the most unpleasant listening experience of any song here.
Slow it down when you're on the ground.
Why is he screaming like that? To the point where it clearly distorts the mic when it feels like it shouldn't. Why does he constantly feel the need to just yell his bloody nuts off? Does he not realize that the only instrumental support is a fucking plinky piano? It's not even just the screeching though. Like, one other thing about Capaldi that defines his singing for me is how when he sings quietly, he also sounds like he's trying to swallow his bottom lip at the same time. Boone does that on this, and it's annoying as shit.
Big dreams on the big screens. I get nervous. Oh, I'm anxious.
And I haven't even got to the worst bit. Like, I made a big stink years ago about the final note on Lewis Capaldi's Hold Me While You Wait and how horrendously unpleasant it was. But the final note on this,
In your head.
that is the worst moment on the entire ranking. God fucking damn it. Why is this catching on? Way to ruin a good set of lyrics and jeopardize your own song, Benson buffoon.
Someone pour me up a double shot of whiskey. They know me and Jack Daniels got a history.
I was going to start this segment by making a joke about how this was just David Guetta finding a cowboy hat, and then this happened.
There's a party downtown near 5th Street. Everybody at the bar getting tipsy.
Sure, why the fuck not? David Guetta shamelessly ripping off his dead friend Avicii is somehow a new low for a man who has sucked for years but is at an all-time low right now in general. And it's not like the song he's using for the remix is particularly dignified anyway.
It's 9 to 5 ain't working.
A bar song Tipsy is probably the best signifier for the re-emergence of the monoculture that's happening right now in pop music. It's trying to cover all bases, and in doing so, it's basically a song full of sort ofs, but not reallys. It sort of interpolates Jaquan's Tipsy, but not really. It only uses the 1, 2, 3, 4 and some of the main line. The rest is original. It's sort of a party song, but not really. It's sort of about this guy and his troubles, but not really. Has him moaning about his partner at the start before randomly going into flirting with other women afterwards. The production is sort of fine, but not really. The singing is sort of fine, but not really. He has this rather cringy rap-like drawl to his voice. It's unusual, I'm not a fan, and that's on top of the processing. Even the whiskey that's described in this song is sort of a whiskey, but not really. The fiddle line sums it up the best. Like, it has a good melody to start with, and then it just flatlines on one note.
Everybody at the bar getting tipsy.
A decent idea, but unfinished. It's sort of a fiddle line, but not really. I mean, to its credit, the actual aesthetic is kind of cool at the end of the day. It's not the kind of party vibe we normally have on the UK chart, so its success does intrigue me, but I don't think it's the kind of thing I would want to hear out in the wild. It's sort of jovial and enjoyable, but not really. Okay, anything else? Shaboozey is sort of a one-hit wonder, but not really. It sort of sounds like something that would have been big in the winter of 2009, but not really. It sort of has a bit of a stomp clap influence, but not really. It sort of sounds like you're about to listen to Wonderwall, but not really. It sort of sounds rustic and rootsy, but not really. His hair is sort of cool, but not really. Shaboozey is sort of a good stage name, but not really. Anyway, that's enough. Also, did you know that this guy's in the music video for Tommy Richmond's Devil Is a Lie, and he's at the strip club? Yeah, that's him. Oh, and speaking of which, getting ahead of myself.
Yes, I wanna make it. I'm $1 million baby.
I'll just be minding my own business, listening to a playlist of songs I like or an album, and then this thing will come up on the bloody autoplay. Because at first I struggled to imagine there was a large enough sample of people who heard this song by a relative newcomer on an independent label and immediately and willingly went out of their way to stream it over and over again to the point where it debuted at number 10 on the global charts and number 2 on the Hot 100.
Got me losing my mind. Center City is mine.
What the fuck is that vocal? Jesus Christ.
I ain't never represent me. Do no wrong.
You know, people compared this to Steve Lacy when it dropped, but that's not the comparison point I came up with. This is Ice JJ Fish.
I can paint a good for you. I know right from wrong. Baby girl, you know I got you. Center City. Baby girl, you know I got you. Represent me. Do no wrong. Oh, you got me want to tell all them other girls.
Because the instrumental's good, like there are some juicy chromatic chords and the drum sounds are tight as hell, but I can't imagine willingly listening to a song with this kind of singing on it. This is the kind of jokey shit the internet made fun of 10 years ago, and it's now being enjoyed completely unironically. Like, what the hell is this shit?
I had some help. It ain't like I can make this kind of mess all by myself.
Looks like Morgan Wallen's now firmly crossed over. If Last Night wasn't a fluke, and both of his biggest albums finally became certified this year, and he was only 2,000 sales away from hitting number 1 with this track. Anyways, this is way more similar to the country music that charts in the States than the crossover stuff. It doesn't have a stomp clap or rustic feel. It's very cleanly produced radio pop for pickup truck drivers. I Had Some Help is just a slightly better produced version of Wallen's typical non-trap sound. And yes, technically this is Post Malone's song, and he's definitely helped this to do so on other countries, but nah, this is Morgan Wallen. It sounds like a Morgan Wallen song, and Post Malone sounds like Morgan Wallen on it. Like I'd seen for more than a year now, Posty making this country pivot a big deal. He's been building up to this and promoting it for ages, and it's literally just more Morgan Wallen. I don't think we need more Morgan Wallen, you know? Like the final chorus has both of them singing in unison. They sound the exact same.
Be deep in every weekend if you couldn't tell.
Like all that build up for just more of the same shit. And the Morgan Wallenness goes deeper than that. The best thing about Morgan Wallen is his melodic instinct. Even his worst songs have great melodies. Him and his team don't really get much credit for how good they are at writing melodies, and I will not say this is an exception at all. It is a really good melody. But it also features the worst aspect of his music, which is almost cartoonishly awful spite against women. In fact, the first time I heard this, I thought it was being sung to alcohol. As in, the song was about a bottle of whiskey, and that was being represented as a woman. Kind of like Post Malone's Enough Is Enough, because at least that would be a good enough reason for the juxtaposed happy tone of the instrumental as a drinking song. No, instead it's 3 minutes of blaming your bad mental state on your ex. Quite similar to Morgan Wallen's atrocious One Thing at a Time single, albeit not nearly as bad this time, because they at least make some kind of effort to imply they're both fucked up. Low bar, I know. And the childish blame game shit is so reprehensible and annoying, even if it's all supposed to be a little tongue-in-cheek. At this point, I just can't anymore. I just don't want to engage with this crap, because Morgan has made too many songs like this, and like there used to be something compelling about them, and now they just suck. Annoying it sounds so nice, because otherwise this would have been considerably lower. It was a bit difficult understanding at first why this ended up being one of the biggest global hits of the year. I guess in theory it's not surprising at all. Most years since Adele's 21 have seen some vaguely soul artist getting a giant and very mediocre crossover hit before another one comes around the following year or two. I guess with this one its 6/8 slow ballad swing is retro by even those standards, has a more tasteful sound than Human by Rag & Bone Man or Little Bit of Love. I'd been hearing of Teddy Swims for a couple of years at this point. He first charted on an MK song in 2022, and even before 2024 I'd come across a couple of people who were fans of his, including my current housemate. I just registered him as an obviously talented guy whose music just wasn't really for me. Me and that housemate performed a pretty good cover of his 2021 single Bed on Fire. I like our version more than his, but you can't doubt the melody and vocals on that song. It's a bit of a shame this is the big one. I generally don't like these slow 6/8 ballads, they don't really do it for me. And then there's the content about how he's such a horny ball of testosterone that being away from his girl means he wants to rip his own flesh off. It is extremely melodramatic and even feels a little blameful. Self-control, Ted. That content is problematic indeed. The best part of the song is the production, specifically the percussion. The machines thwack in the chorus and it sounds really cool. And I also really like the sparse little triplet drum fills at the end of the musical phrases. They just sound really good.
Yeah, you're breaking my heart, baby. You make a mess of me. Yeah.
As for Swims, I liked his over-singing at first, but after 6 months of overplay, it really does get on my nerves now. Notice how he doesn't sing Losing Control, but Losing Control, it's so much. I mean, I prefer this being Billboard's year-end #1 over Jack Harlow, but we've had much better hits this year.
We had a plan, move out of this town, baby.
Oh dear, so looks like Anne-Marie's Unhealthy wasn't completely useless after all. Didn't think we'd have another country pop song that sounded like this crossing over anytime soon. And I do wonder if both songs are wearing country influences insincerely as a costume. I mean, Dasher isn't much of a country artist by the sounds of it, but I think Austin is definitely the better song. I like how the entire thing sounds, the stomping and clapping and slightly out of time and a little ahead of the beat. That's at least a bit charming as opposed to the processed lack of soul of Unhealthy. Also, even if her vocals aren't remarkable, I like Dance's singing. She's good at playing the part.
Empty cans and I'll be damned, your shit was never packed. Did your boobs stop working? Did your truck break down?
Speaking of which, it's an interesting story, this one. Basically, Prancer and her partner are looking to move out of their shitty town and make it big in LA, and the day before they leave to make this dream a reality, he doesn't show up. Understandably, Vixen is pissed off.
I made my way back to LA, and that's where you'll be forgotten. In 40 years, you'll still be here, drunk wash up in Austin.
Woof, burn. But I think the big holdup for me is, alright, okay, like, if I was to plan something like this, basically run away with a partner for a better life and do weeks and potentially months of planning, and the day before we head off, my partner doesn't turn off, well, yeah, I may assume that they would have gone, like, you know, they would have gone away back to an ex or something, but like, I'd probably file a missing persons report first. Because the thing is, the way the song's written, it legitimately sounds like this guy went completely missing. Not just from our life, but everyone's life. Could he have been kidnapped, got in a serious accident without anyone knowing? Comet even suspects he got in a fight. Sounds like he got drunk and then got himself in trouble. And yeah, maybe Cupid is just pissed at this guy's general behavior, but still, like, if you're gonna plan to move to a different part of the country with an alcoholic boyfriend, that implies you will still look out for him throughout that problem. And I'm far from the first critic to point this out, but there are other parts of the story that just don't line up. Donda treats the place like it's a small town, but then reveals it was actually Austin, Texas. There's also something kind of uncomfortably revealing about how Blitzen is this glamorous blonde Californian singing about the greats of Los Angeles on a country song, whilst the capital of Texas, which has been pushed to the side in mainstream country conversation for quite a bit of time, is treated as a bit of a shithole, but I digress. We won't remember this song in 40 years either, but that's okay.
Wanna know what I told her with her hand on my shoulder.
So the week I'm ranking is the one that Billie Eilish dropped Hit Me Hard and Soft, and I only remembered at the last minute that my album rules for this top 20 series means that I have to exclude what has become the actual biggest hit from the record, Birds of a Feather, as it was only the second biggest non-single for this tracking week. Meanwhile, I forgot that there was an extended version of this song released as a separate single during the tracking week, so I'm adding it in last minute. Anyways, the first part of this song, which makes up the majority of it, doesn't really do it for me. The whispery vocals, the backing, and the lyrics, but it turns into something pretty slick afterwards with a pumping house beat, and then it derives into some really cool rave beats at the end. Like, it kind of sounds like Nihilist Blues by Bring Me the Horizon, and I appreciate that. And what's unfortunate is this little ending bit isn't even on the extended single. Otherwise, this would have been much higher, because that bit's only about 20 seconds long.
I was supposed to be sent away, but they forgot to come and get me.
Yeah, I know, I'm a hypocrite. I slandered Jack Antonoff earlier, and I don't think this instrumental is great. Honestly, it does grow on you after repeated listens. We have seen many strange chart phenomena this year, but Hozier getting a #1 this year was definitely one of the strangest. I mean, okay, David Kushner's Daylight was heavily inspired by Hozier and it was huge last year, but Hozier released an album in August and the biggest hit from it didn't make the top 20. Yet somehow he did one of those EP album add-ons months down the line that a lot of artists do nowadays, and it has to be the most successful example of this to date. For comparison, when Unreal Unearthed dropped, only one of the songs from the record charted and it peaked at 86. Like, that's nothing. But with the bonus EP, 3 of the 4 songs hit the top 100, and one of them became his first ever top 10 debut and went on to hit number 1 somehow.
I think I'll take my whiskey.
I really like Hozier nowadays. That album was the best album I heard on Sweeping Up the Streams last year, so I have to be honest. I'm not really that crazy about this one. I reckon a big part of its success is it sounds like a modern pop song, more than anything else Hozier's dropped in a short while. And you know, it's a solid instrumental. I think the drums in particular sound great, but I'm just so tired of bass lines. Like, maybe this song would work a little better for me with a few years removed from the trends it's copying. And you know, Hozier is always a reliably great singer. That authority in his voice when the drums come in is just beauty to the ears.
You're too sweet for me. I take my whiskey.
But what absolutely holds the song back is the content. So I suppose this is kind of like supposed to be a bit of a humorous song about 2 different people in a couple, specifically how the woman in the relationship wakes up early in the morning and Hozier gets up later. Yeah, that's basically what the premise of this song is. And hey, I don't think it's a bad topic. I mean, I welcome it. It's novel. It's just a little hard to buy the healthy early bird as the woman and the crazed partygoer as Hozier. Because this sophisticated, gentle sir singing about taking his drugs straight, it just doesn't really work for me. And just generally, the writing is not as good as it normally is from Hozier.
You treat your mouth as if it's heaven's gate. The rest of you like you're the TSA.
If I had a nickel for every bad lyric I heard about airport security in the UK top 20 this year,
I don't go through TSA to get on planes.
nah, but that has to be one of the worst lyrics I've heard this entire year. Like, even beyond the implication that the only exciting thing about this girl is that she gives great head, which, I mean, let's not dwell on that for too much. Like, the TSA simile is painfully clunky and forced. And let's not forget this little gem as well.
Pretty as a vine, sweet as a grape. You can sit in a barrel.
Like, I get that this links to the imagery of her being sweet like wine, and it also links back to the chorus about how he likes whiskey and that she should age faster like he is, but like, he literally told her to go sit in a barrel. Look, if I ever do make a best songs of 2023 video, I will one day sing the praises of modern Hozier. He is one of the best artists in the mainstream right now, but this one isn't it. Like, it's still quite good, but I recommend almost all the songs from the album last year over this.
Oh, I hope I don't lose you.
This, on the other hand, is probably one of the guy's best, but the fact it's the current most streamed song of the year makes little sense. Usually the biggest hits of a year don't have this kind of dramatic shift between its peaks and valleys, or it doesn't have the structure like a song as Beautiful Things has, let alone are they this Christian. Whilst the writing is quite sloppy and far too matter-of-fact, my biggest issue with this song is how seemingly unfounded his fear of losing his partner is. His relationship is ideal, he sees her often and his parents get on with her, but he's worried that one day he'll lose her because just cuz. The chorus of Beautiful Things is directed at both his girlfriend and God, which is honestly kind of cool. You could argue he's talking to both. Boone's been open about his struggles with religion. Heck, In the Stars showed this too. Otherwise, the fear of loss in the song seems pretty unfounded and incredibly overdramatic. I don't know, maybe growing up as a Mormon means you're constantly in fear of God taking things from you. Women are just beautiful things sent to you by God, and he'll take them back if he doesn't like you for whatever reason. It is an intriguing concept for a hit song in 2024, but I can't say I vibe with it that much. And yes, that means the song is high on the ranking because, yeah, I like the way this sounds. Quite a lot, mind you. In fact, I remember the issues I had with Boone before this year and how he sounded so much like Justin Bieber screeching his nuts off. Here I was like, wow, he's come out of his shell quite a bit since. Sounds more like a unique voice. Granted, the chorus is rough, especially the second chorus. Like, there's this video on Benson Boone's YouTube Shorts page that is basically joking about how screechy the songs he writes are, and it basically says he should stop writing songs he can't sing. It's kind of funny as a short, but it certainly doesn't help his case much. Still, as someone who's had to listen to more Lewis Capaldi than all of you watching, I think you're all overreacting to the vocal on this song a bit. Also, I just don't hate it because unlike on Slow It Down, it isn't way too fucking loud in the mix. It is actually backed by some production with a bit of oomph. And that is actually what I like most about the song, the instrumental. The mixing job really works for me, and I can't really put my finger on why. Like, the drums, especially the cymbals, are really quiet, and the guitars are all compressed against them, and that results in a sound that's loud and forceful, but also unusually smooth and pleasant on the ears. I'm not really sure how that works, it just does. But God, what a build into those choruses, and what a contrast between the two sections. It's an unusual hit, and even if it sticks around for far too long at this point, I'm glad for its success.
Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to Cell Block 1.
Ugh, where do we even begin with this one? It's possible that even as I write this in early July, the beef isn't entirely over. Drake is still releasing music, some of which is genuinely awful, like that Sexy Red song that samples BBL Drizzy and this.
Walk one Delilah, double date me if you like me. Brought my chronom for your besties.
Ugh.
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
Not Like Us was basically the celebration of Drake's defeat, which is funny because it came out just one day after Family Matters. Incredible Kendrick had such a grip on the culture's balls that he was able to overthrow the biggest artist of the century in less than 48 hours.
Freaky ass nigga, he a 69 God.
Of the 4 Kendrick disses to stream, Not Like Us is my least favorite. It's my least favorite when it comes to the production for sure. Like, I've seen 2 breakdowns on how Mustard made the beat, and both show that this is a very easy instrumental to remake. Not much was done to the 60s sample at all, and that bass is ridiculously loud and is doing way too much of the work. Mustard even admitted in an interview that it took him 30 minutes to make the instrumental, and he was sending Lamar about 5 different beats a day in the hope he would rap over one, so it's likely the unfinished sound of the track is because it just didn't have that much time put into it. But at the end of the day, Not Like Us is so much more than the song itself. Like, no, it's not as devastating as Meet the Grahams, nor is it as tight as Like That, or as well performed as Euphoria, but it's much more of an anthem than all of those, and considering the goodwill Kendrick has amongst everyone, including most Drake fans, it practically won by default. Unlike on Meet the Grahams, Not Like Us doesn't really reveal anything in that regard, but it's so good at getting those accusations stuck in my head that I can't even ignore thinking about them when I listen to one of the few Drake songs I actually do like.
High school pics, you was even bad then.
But it's hard to conceptualize and fully contextualize what the success of the song means going forward. This was a Billboard #1, and it calls the man with the most Billboard #1s a certified pedophile who needs to be placed on Neighborhood Watch. It broke the record for the most daily streams on Spotify for any rap song ever, which it did at a time when mainstream rap was on the out, and it stole the record from a Drake song. It comes from one of the smartest and best respected rappers of all time, and it's him throwing out a bunch of childish jokes. Like, I've heard that A minor joke used about 10 times in my life, and you know what? I still laugh. Granted, I do think anyone who thinks Kendrick is painting a perfect picture of himself with this behavior is glazing a bit too hard. On Euphoria, he said this.
Why would I call around trying to get dirt on niggas? Y'all thinking my life is rap? That's whole shit. I got a son to raise.
Yet Not Like Us and Meet the Grahams shows him contradicting that pretty hard. And I don't really care to hear a counter argument about how this relates to Kendrick's intentional contradictions in his music, because like, this is beef. Like, why would you say that kind of thing during a beef? I mean, it is kind of ho shit at the end of the day, but if this is what it takes to get Drake to fuck off in the mainstream, I'll take it. The best part of the song is that final verse though, where he compares Drake's attempts to further his fame in the rap world to literal colonization. Frankly, I'm kind of surprised he didn't make the Drake, Francis Drake comparison. I mean, I don't love the song personally, but it's the song in this top 20 that's worth caring the most about. What an insane moment. This is going to top all the best lists of 2024, and that shouldn't really surprise anyone. I've seen this described as post-punk before, and it was in the top 3. What a year.
I like the way you kiss me. I can tell you miss me. I can tell it this.
It was also the only song by a British artist in the UK top 10 for a non-consecutive month. It comes from prolific Talk of the Charts Discord member Artemis, an Oxford citizen who got all his groundswell from TikTok. He makes I've seen it called fatherless pop. I know that is a horrible name, but like he seems like the kind of douchebag Isabel La Rosa would write a song about. Makes lots of moody, atmospheric tunes about toxic relationships and fucking. Not gonna lie, it scratches a bit of an itch, and I don't mind that kind of moody sound on the charts. Artemis charted a song before this called If You Think I'm Pretty. It's probably one of the most divisive charting songs of the year, but I would go out on my way to bat for it. I think it does what I Like the Way You Kiss Me does even better. That chorus is rough, but the threatening yet equally intimate instrumental makes it perfect music to hit it from the back when you don't want to get attached. I Like the Way You Kiss Me is the easier listen though, and because of that, I'd probably return to it much more. Either way, this one has a fantastic, albeit much more usual instrumental. As far as songs that sound like demos but are the finished product go, this rough, buzzy bass synth paired with some genuine great production ideas like the subtle synth pads that silently shine through the second chorus and the guitars in the pre-chorus, like it just takes the cake. The vocal alteration on the chorus is pretty neat and sounds a lot better than on If You Think I'm Pretty. It means the actual lyrics come through a bit clearer, and they are, to put it bluntly, shit.
Not trying to be romantic, I'll hit it from the back just so you don't get attached.
See, it's not just that that's a bad lyric, but it's a bad lyric in a 2-sentence chorus, so you have to hear it like 6 times. Artemis is quite smug about his abilities in making sexual jams, and to his credit, this is a good song to bust nuts to. It's propulsive, it's anthemic, and it's weirdly kind of fun at the same time. It's probably the song in this ranking I've seeked out the most. If Not Like Us isn't the song that tops all the best lists, it'll likely be this one. I was vaguely familiar with Chappell Roan's name before this year, and in fact only checked out her 2023 album recently, and it was not great. Chappell's simple presence as a lesbian pop star writing out and proud lesbian anthems for the mainstream does make her one of the most important artists getting hits right now. And I think that's fantastic, because gay anthems, even though they're not new to the mainstream, they're still really uncommon to this day and age. But Dan Nigro's synth pop and ballad instrumentals are just so one-note and trite that the majority of the album sounds far too boring and insipid than it should. There are some good songs on it, but a whole lot of mid too. Extravagant, ultra-gay topics of inspiration on top of accessible commercial synth presets. That is also in part the case for Good Luck Babe. There's a reason this kind of sounds like Cupid, which kind of sounds like Better Days, which kind of sounded like Say So. This is the 4th time in the past 5 years that we've had a big global hit led by a dominant bass line at approximately 120 BPM with the exact G major, A minor, D major, B minor chord progression in that exact order, in that exact key. I've complained about this sound for years now, but this is a particularly ridiculous and cynical example of how unoriginal and boring this can get. But I think Good Luck Babe is the best of the 4 because it's using the trite chord sequence as a vessel to introduce a very interesting song concept to the mainstream that is kind of left field, even by Chappell's standards. Plus the production on this song is better than most of the last album, to the point I was surprised it was solely produced by Dan Nigro and he didn't get assistance. Good Luck Babe is essentially about trying to make a relationship work between Rowan and a woman who's clearly in the closet. I mean, Montero is technically about this too, but Rowan's song is far less sexual and far more focused on the actual connection between the two. How the other girl writes off the relationship as a casual underground thing, just a phase, but Rowan treats it as a lot more serious. And understandably, she's feeling quite used, and like, good lord, does she get bitter.
When you wake up next to him in the middle of the night with your head in your hands, you're nothing more than his wife.
Just his wife, oh my lord. But the thing is, I've seen reactions from several gay people who find this part of the song an absolute emotional gut punch. I've related to few songs less, but there's a real ping of empathy I have here. It's undeniably a spiteful song. And at first I thought it was strange for Rowan to say that she was the one to call off the relationship and then deliver this bridge. But the spite is coming from a place of genuine pain. She only calls the relationship off because she wants to be loved. So, surprise, surprise, she's going to be a bit pissed off and accusatory to someone who writes off the entire thing as a phase at the end of the day. It's a really sad song when you get down to it. Still not entirely on board yet. It could afford to sound less like Last Christmas, and as impressive as Rowan sounds, I wish she enunciated the chorus because it is a great melody. But yeah, we're making major strides with this one's success, and I hope this is the lead into a good, emotionally complex album with better production than the last one.
Open up the door, can you open up the door?
Yep.
I could eat that girl for lunch as she dances
say Billy's 2024 record, Hit Me Hard and Soft, is better than her 2021 magnum opus, Happier Than Ever, in my opinion, but it is still better than most artists' efforts today. We were just talking about gay anthems. Omar's Lunch isn't nearly as compelling as Good Luck Babe. It takes the anthem part and runs with it. I wasn't too convinced at first because I visioned Billy as a trendsetter, not a trend chaser, so a disco song from her didn't exactly rub me the right way, but a few listens in, I think this song is really fun.
And I could never get enough. I could buy you so much stuff. It's a craving, not a crush.
Like, it's very explicit about how explicit the song is. You can't listen to it and think it's about anything else. But Billy's curious, submissive tone to her vocal and the colourful keys over the disco groove makes this a fun listen. Probably the summariest hit in her catalogue. I'd definitely take it over Espresso. The best place I heard Chihara was on Chili Run amongst the coastal pier under a starlit sky. It's a song loosely based on a 2001 anime, and whilst I feel it could be better than it is, like some of the synths are quite weak and some of the percussion is too, it's a cool idea for a song, and Billy's vocal performance is just frantically beautiful. As is, these are two songs that could be a little better, but in a relatively weak top 20, they do come out as the best. But I guess that's just me and my hater bag. Anyways, thank you all so much for coming along to watch. I know I haven't done a decently edited top 20 ranking, and I want to thank Luke's99 especially for offering to edit this video, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to get it out at all. Anyway, here are 10 songs that are lower down on this particular chart, which I personally recommend. Most of them have probably fallen off the charts by now, but I'd still recommend you give them a shot. Anyway, thank you all so much for coming, and have a good summer.
Said I would die for you, baby, but I can't take this pain no more.
They say it doesn't get sweeter. Feel my body banging like speaker. Ooh, sweating on my concealer.
Welkom in Europa, blijf hier tot ik dood ga. Europa, Europa,
Ain't no love in Oklahoma, just a whistle of a long black train.
I'ma hit the good, throw it back, throw it back, back, back. I'ma hit the good, I'ma hit the good, throw it back, 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 back.
Now just sit down, what I'm about to say is heavy, now listen. Your son's a sick man with sick thoughts, I think niggas like him should die.
Threatening yet equally intimate instrumental makes it perfect music to hit it from the back when you don't want to get attached. That was such a... Oh, jeez, I can't believe it. Whatever.